There's an inflection point that every large enterprise hits with voice AI. You're deploying multiple agents, handling sensitive data, handling thousands of calls, and suddenly manual testing isn't just inefficient, it's impossible. By the end of this video, you'll have a decision framework to determine when you reach that complexity threshold, where professional testing software isn't a nice to have but becomes mandatory. We'll cover the 3 breaking points that signal that you need industrial grade testing and when this large investment makes sense for the business. I'm Alejo, co-founder and CEO of Amplify Voice. We help enterprises build voice AI systems that have real value, and we've seen firsthand when not having the proper testing infrastructure becomes the make or break factor in deployments. Today I'm going to talk about my favorite testing platform, which is called Secura, that I've covered before in previous videos that I'm going to link above. We've covered how to set yourself up in the platform and how to use the observability features for monitoring real live calls. But now it's time to talk about fit. Is this right for your company? Before we get into the framework, let me give you a sense of how we used to test and how we test now. Where we used to test manually each conversation path, where we go yes to this question 1, yes to question 2, no to question 3. What we now do with Secura is actually auto-generated and auto-tested conversation paths where each evaluator tests one possible path. If we were testing, say, the appointment setting portion, we need to go through the whole conversation flow just to get to that appointment setting portion. And now the evaluators take care of that whole process. We can just listen to the recordings, read the transcripts, and understand how well our voice agent is doing. When we're testing more of the human-like features like interruptibility to check how fast it reacts, now we leverage Secura's multiple personalities, including the ones that focus on interrupting the user while they're speaking. And then if you're in the enterprise world, you probably have a knowledge base attached to your voice agents, and you know that checking for hallucinations is a hell of a work. So instead of asking a question several times and see if the response varies, asking them in different ways, we can have a voice agent, a testing agent in Secura, now leverage the metric for hallucinations and feed it the knowledge base so it can ask different questions in different ways throughout different calls. And what we get back is a report that walks through all the tests that were made, including were there any hallucinations, and then how many of those calls there were hallucinations. In this case, there were no hallucinations. If you want to learn more about the platform, go check out my previous videos on it that will get you onboarded and all set up in about 10 to 20 minutes. But now let's talk about if this is even right for you. The first breaking point is volume. Once you've deployed your voice agent, if you're getting more than 30, 50 calls a day, it's going to be very hard and it's going to take many hours to listen over each of those calls. Secura would allow you to check which calls are worth looking at. For example, which calls failed. It'll help you understand why they failed and if this is something urgent that needs taken care of right now, so you know how to focus your time. Breaking point number 2, compliance. We're dealing with non-deterministic systems. If a disclaimer must be said a certain way in a financial services use case or in a legal use case, then you can't have your voice agent using its own words, checking for extracting from the knowledge base accurately, saying disclaimers the right way. Anything that is compliance related, Secura is incredible for because it can catch things even before you deploy your voice agent. And breaking point number 3, team building, and not the type that you're thinking of. When it's not just you building, where you're building as a team, then you need a centralized place for testing. Just hearing your teammates say, oh yeah, I tested it, it's good to go, is not good enough at an enterprise level. We need to be looking at the same tests, at the same metrics. And because voice agents are not always perfect, aligning if 95% is good enough and having the right tests and monitoring to agree with your teammates on what we do next. Is this ready to deploy? Do we need to pull this back? What do we need to change? So if it's not just you building, that is a massive indicator that a testing platform like Secura would be the right move for you. Now, very importantly, let's talk about who this is not for. If you're budget constrained, Secura is not a cheap platform, and it's worth it if you're looking to make an investment into the infrastructure for your voice agents. Number 2, for simple use cases like a simple appointment setter, Secura is a bit of an overkill. Thus, it might not justify the cost or the operational overhead because it takes time to set this up. And number 3, non-critical applications. If a 90% success rate where the other 10% say gets transferred to a human to handle, then you might not need the weight and power of Secura. So if a failure is not business critical and you have some risk tolerance, then this investment might not make sense for you. Now let's go on to what I call the enterprise fit assessment, which is questions that I ask my clients to see if this is something they really need. If they answer yes to any of these questions, then I would usually suggest them to get onto Secura. Question number 1, are you in a very regulated industry? Think mortgages, financial services, legal, medical. Do you have multiple teams or multiple people working on voice AI simultaneously? Next, is even one failure gonna cost you a client or compliance issues? Number 4, are you handling sensitive data, like the data that would be covered under HIPAA? And finally, number 5, do you need documented testing processes for audits or legal purposes? If you answered yes to any of the questions, then you probably need Secura. If you answered yes to 2 or more questions, then you definitely need Secura. And let me be very clear here. The return on investment of Secura doesn't come from having a fancy tool. It's not having your team spend hours manually testing. It's the risk mitigation of any issues that could happen from one call going wrong or a voice agent going rogue. And then the speed of deployment with confidence. If any of those 3 sound like that would be worth the return on investment of $1,000 a month, then Secura is definitely for you. And personally speaking, what I have found best about Secura is actually the 3 co-founders. You guys have provided us with so much support, so much attention. We send you guys a message and you're instantly sending a response. It is incredible how fast you guys move, and thank you for all the support that you have provided us. A huge portion of why we've been able to deliver with confidence for clients is because we have this infrastructural backbone. So thank you guys for having been so supported along the way. So we've covered the 3 breaking points for any enterprise to now need proper infrastructure for testing. It's volume, how many calls are coming through, and if you're above 30 to 50 calls a day, then manual listening to the calls or manual testing kind of becomes untenable. Breaking point number 2 is you have compliance requirements, then definitely need proper testing infrastructure. And number 3 is when you have more than one person building voice agents, then having ground truth of testing is critical. And then from the return on investment, think about how many hours your team is going to save, how much is going to save you from mitigating risk for any compliance issues, and how much more you're making or saving from being able to speed up your deployment process by having proper testing. And if this resonates with you, go ahead and sign up. We have a promo code in the description below that you can put when you sign up. It helps us and will give you a 20% off over the next 3 months. But maybe you don't want to set it up for yourself and having to learn all the ropes. I do have a video, but if you want my help directly, click the work with me link below. If you want, you can submit a whole project for us to work on or book a one-on-one with me and I'll be happy to set it up the right way for you. And if you missed the platform quick start in part 1 or the observability setup in part 2, I'll leave the links below so you can go check those out. For enterprises that are ready to build voice AI that scales, that's exactly what we do at Amplify Voice. And we'd love to help you navigate this world of complexity and opportunity. I hope to hear from you soon. You can also find me on LinkedIn and DM me if you need my help. But the most important thing is that you remember to never stop prompting.